So, if you don't yet feel like a master of the pen tool, you will definitely be a master by the end of the next 2 weeks, because today we're starting a project that involves a lot of pen tooling. So, if you visit our course, you're going to want to go get the materials for the next 2 weeks. If you on files, the next assignment is project 2. It's the last assignment that's exclusively going to be done in Illustrator, and then we're going to move on to Photoshop. So if you go to assignments and you click on project 2, oops, I should be in student view, so I'm looking at what you're looking at. So you go to assignments, and the upcoming one after you turn in exercise 3 is project 2, and you'll find the assignment instructions here, the PDF, and a reminder that says please download the project 2 folder from the files section for all course materials, and this is where you submit your assignment on the assignment page here in Canvas. But you're going to want to go to files and skip over the first column, go to the far right column and find project 2, scroll down and hover over it, and then just click on the ... click download, and then you'll get the folder there. So it's downloading the zip file, so I want to get that. There it is. So I'm going to double click to extract it and put it in my folder for the class. Media drive. Oops, this is the wrong one. Here it is, Tuesday, Thursday. And I'm just going to drag that in. Okay, so there are lots of materials in there to look at. Some of them are carrying over from last week, since for this project it's going to involve a lot of work with the pen tool and some knowledge of using layers. So there's a handout on layers that I gave you last time. And the same handouts, important Illustrator info, keyboard shortcuts. The project 2 assignment is here. I'm going to open that up and go over what that is. And topics that we're going to be covering. There's a list of topics here. And we're going to be looking at places to go to search for images that are not copyright restricted. So I'll open that up. This handout here that's called URL image search is helpful for that. There's a handout here called Flow Lecture that I'm going to try to get you a video that I did in a classroom environment that explains more about this handout. But basically this handout is helpful for looking at layout flaws and how the layout was corrected to make the layout more engaging. So I go through it there's a video lesson that I'll put up. It's helpful to study this when you're arranging your text with your image. For this assignment, it requires that you include text with the image that you create. So if you look at the flow lecture, it's all about how to create good flow in a composition that will really lead the viewer's eye to read the text and keep the viewer engaged and looking at every part of the composition. So with this composition, there's something wrong with it. And can anyone tell me what's wrong with this composition, this layout, just off the bat, based on things we've talked about in the past? So this is a series of layouts where there's something wrong, and that's indicated by this little no symbol. And then it shows you how the layout was corrected. And just look at that. Doesn't this look like there's a lot more text on this layout? You feel boxed in. You don't feel like reading the text. There's a problem here because there's empty space in the middle. That's a problem with the layout. So this is how they corrected it. It's the same amount of text, but it's strategically placed. The focal point is leading the viewer to look at the text. There's a hierarchy created with the sizing of the text so that the important text is larger than the less important text. So the important text pops out at you and it looks like there's less to read, but it's actually the same amount of text. But this up here looks clunky and it's not inviting anyone to read it. So there's more in there that you can look at on your own. You can watch the video that I'll be posting coming up. But let's talk about what the project assignment is. So I call this the self-representation vector translation. I know it's a fancy name. Originally, it was the assignment was to do a self-portrait, but I wanted to expand it so you don't have to choose to do a picture of yourself. It can be any image that's meaningful to you, any photographic image of something in real life captured by a simple camera shot, not somebody else's art, not someone else's digital art that's super processed, nothing from the movies that looks really nothing like CGI, computer generated imagery, nothing, no anime and no animation image, no photograph of a painting or any art for this, except one exception. If it's your own art, you can use that. Other than that, it should be a photographic image taken by a camera, just a simple shot of something in the world that's real, that you can recreate in vectors. So in the end, the work should stand alone as vectors, just vectors, no pixels allowed. So you're going to be using a photographic image and basing your work on the photographic image, not necessarily recreating everything in the photographic image, going beyond the photographic image in a way that where you're using your own style, you're using the tools that you've been learning in Illustrator to create shapes, to capture something, the likeness, the essence of something in the photograph, to create a work of your own. So this is how you're gonna name it: last name, first initial dash proj 2. So talked about these things. So for the photograph, you can scan the photograph. If maybe you have an old photograph that's meaningful of a family member, and if you have access to a scanner, you can scan, or you can scan the photograph, or you can download the photograph from a digital camera or the internet. And you'll be using the photograph as a template to create your own vector illustration. No pixels allowed. It's vector-based art only. In the end, you're gonna still include the photograph when you turn it in, but I'll be able to turn it off and see that the work stands alone. You can use as much or as little color as you'd like, including gradients, special effects, etc. And text needs to be incorporated in the work. It could be, if it's a self-portrait, it could be your name, or you could think more poetically, like a quote, or a word that has words that have meaning that relate to the image. and the finished size should be 8 by 8. So that's one of the criteria of the assignment. And oh, I made a mistake here because I forgot to update this for the online version of this class. So I'm gonna make a change on that. Don't worry about turning in a print, obviously. Just turn in a digital file to Canvas saved as a PDF. Work in your file as an Illustrator file until the very end, then do a save as and change the format to PDF. Make sure you're not working in the file as a PDF. I made that mistake and the file got corrupt, so I consider that I learned from that to not do that, because I don't think it's the best idea, since it's not 100% compatible with Illustrator to work in a PDF. Although you can, it's just, I found out it could be dangerous. So so I have the steps to starting this here on the second page. But let's talk about choosing a photograph from the internet. So that's why I gave you this handout here, because there's some links on Flickr. Anyone use the site flickr.com? Yeah, a few people. Let me see if I can see you guys in gallery view. Okay, now I can see you guys. Okay, well, except hardly anyone has their camera on. But if you want to, you can do your hand wave or your reaction with a raised hand if you use the Flickr site. Maybe just one person does? Okay, cool. All right. Well, Flickr, whether you're using it to post your own work or using it to find images, there are some good places to go on Flickr to find images that are not so copyright restricted. For the assignment, I'm not gonna grade you down or anything if you find an image that's got full copyright restrictions, as long as it's looks like just a photographic image. It doesn't look like computer generated imagery by lots of, like from a movie where there's lots of 3D animation going on. As long as it looks like it's just a simple photograph captured by a camera, even if it's got copyright restriction on it, I'm gonna be looking at how you use the tools to come up with your own version of that photograph in vectors using the tools. So for the assignment, it's not important that you find an image that doesn't have the copyright restrictions, but for the real world, if you wanted to go out and sell your image, you could end up in trouble if you chose an image to work from that was copyright restricted. So let me just give you a real world example here. Anyone know of Shepard Fairey? You can raise your hand or put up a reaction hand. Let me see my participants, if my participants have raised hands. Nobody's heard of Shepard Fairey? Okay. All right. Well, let me Google him so you can see who I'm talking about. Shepard Fairey. Let's Google him, and then let's look up. Let's go to images. So, does anyone recognize any of this work?
Yes.
Yes. So
Yeah, I do.
this is the work of Shepard Fairey. You guys you guys have seen the Obama Hope image, right?
Yeah.
That's one really famous one he's done. So he does these are like the vector translation project that you're about to do, where he's looking at a photograph and he's drawing out the shapes that he sees or that he envisions. A lot of it is imaginative work, right? Because it's not exactly as how the photograph or how a camera would capture shadows on a person's face. He's using his imagination a little bit in how he sees those shadows and highlights on the face. And he's also using his imagination on the color choices. See, Obama isn't really red, white, and blue, right? So, based on looking at how, how he's interpreted the photograph here, let me just show you what the photograph was that he, let's see if I put Obama Hope. Maybe we'll see. Here's an image. This is looking at it, his work side by side with the photograph that he based it off of. So, you can see there's a lot of difference there from what the camera captured to his interpretation, his vector translation of this photograph. But he got in trouble with this because this photograph was taken by an Associated Press photographer. So the Associated Press, after they saw how his image was really taking off and he was selling buttons and bumper stickers and you name it, t-shirts, and he was making good profits selling this image for the Obama campaign, as part of the Obama campaign. And when the Associated Press got a load of that, they wanted a cut. So they took him to court. Shepard Fairey, there was a lawsuit. And so what the court decided, because people don't know that much about the work that goes into this, the jurors and the judge thought, oh, this is easy, this is like paint by number. And under fair use, you would think under the law of fair use that he could make the case, Shepard Fairey could make the case that this was his own work. Because by the law of fair use, it's taking, whatever, you take parts of other works and combine them into something new, and under fair use, the law of fair use, that should be considered your own work. But they didn't see it that way. It's a subjective thing, subjective situation here. So they thought it was paint by number, that it was easy, that maybe they thought he just put a filter on the photograph. And they decided from that date on that Shepard Fairey would need to pay the Associated Press royalties for, a cut of whatever he made off of all the sales. But Shepard Fairey was desperate, and he got caught in a lie, because based on fair use, it's measured, the measure is based on percentage of how much of the original borrowed works are used. So instead of going with what the truth was, that he used this solo shot to base his image off of, he tried to pass off this image with George Clooney as the one he used. It's a silly argument in the first place, but just by percentage, his argument of fair use, I guess that would be a stronger argument, I guess. But he got caught in a lie, which had him with facing jail time. And even by then, Obama was turning his back on Shepard Fairey and saying, yeah, he deserves jail time. So, but he got through all that. In the end, it was, he's doing well now. But I wouldn't want any one of you to get into that kind of mess. So that's why I provided you guys with a link to finding images more safely to use. So that's where the handout that's called URL image search could be helpful. So there are a few links here. One will take you to the Commons section of the Flickr website. The other will take you to a search that filters images on Flickr to a Creative Commons license, which we'll talk about in a moment. But let's start with the Commons section. So here is Flickr. Now, let me just see, something in chat came up. Okay, Rudy made a comment. Reminds me of the Rockstar Games poster art. Yeah, good comment. So, if you go to Flickr here, and if you use my link, you'll get to the page where you can search the Commons. If you search up here in this top field, that's going to search the whole Flickr site. So if you want to search the Commons, you got to scroll down here and use this search field here. And the Commons is is a library of older images that no longer have copyright because they're that old. So after a while, an image loses the copyright law, like copyright restrictions, and it becomes more like public domain. But if you go up here and you search up here, let me think of an image topic. What's a good image topic? Feel free to shout out. I'm just gonna put in horses. Here I just searched the entire Flickr site. So let's say I choose something I like here. They don't have very many cool ones right now. I don't know, I kind of like this one. I've seen this one before. I'm going to click on this one. And notice the majority of what you're going to find on Flickr is going to say that it is copyright restricted, all rights reserved. So you can use an image that's copyright restricted, like I said, but it could be dangerous for you if you wanted to sell it. So I'm gonna go back to the link again that takes you to the Commons. So there. So if you search up here, you're searching the whole Flickr site. Remember, go down here. So if I type in horses here, I'm gonna click search. Then I'm searching for older images. Now you may not want to do an older image. That's fine. There might be some interesting ones in there somewhere. But stay away from ones that look like drawings. Commons has a lot of drawings. Maybe this one, I don't know. So if I click on one here, then to download it, I would click on the downward arrow. Also notice, because this is in the Commons, instead of seeing the copyright symbol, you see a little green circle that says no known copyright restrictions and some information about the image. So if I click the downward arrow here, I'll say download this photo, and I can choose a size. Wow, this one comes really large, over 6,000 pixels wide. For this assignment, you don't really need a super large image, but the bigger the better sometimes, so as long as it's not going to slow down your system. But I'm just going to get the regular large one. When we get into Photoshop, probably the bigger the better. It's going to be good to get really large images if you can. So if you want to start collecting images for Photoshop, we're going to be doing a lot of work with photos. So I'm going to make a new Finder window because this went into my downloads. So I'll just call this old horse image. And I'm just going to drag that into my, let's see, folder for the class. I might make a new folder here in my folder for the class and call it images, and just have that folder be a place where I collect images that I'm looking for. new horse there. Or sorry, the old horse. Old new horse. And then I'm going to go to the other link here. The Flickr.com Creative Commons link will take you to a search engine that filters just images that are under the attribution license, which is a license developed by the Creative Commons organization that allows you other artists the most freedom in using the image. Anyone hear of the Creative Commons licenses? Yes. So if you want to learn more about those, there's another link at the bottom of the handout right here that has a video. It's the Creative Commons website, has a video about the Creative Commons licenses, and you can learn more about the different licenses. And if you want to post your work up on your website, you might want to get the label. You can get the label for this from this website to license your work in different ways. So if you're okay with people using your work, but you don't want it used commercially, you can get a Creative Commons license for that. Images that are licensed just under the attribution license allow you to use the image however you'd like. You can modify it. You can use the image commercially even. The only requirement is that you attribute, that you credit the original creator of the image. So that's what the requirement is for finding images here on Flickr that are licensed under the attribution license. So let's say I look up, I'll choose another category, cats. So for this assignment, you can choose any category of images. Just please keep it rated G for my sake. For this assignment, it should be an image that you could spend a lot of time looking at, because you're going to be spending 2 weeks. So it should be an image that you enjoy looking at. You can spend a lot of time, a whole 2 weeks of time looking at the image without getting bored. But for my sake, please keep it rated G or PG. So cats, let me just choose this one here. So I choose a cat face there. That's a nice cat. And then check out the symbol here for the license attribution. So I would need to credit this person. So I would copy his name, highlight it, Command C, and then download it. Choose the size I want. I'll choose the original size, and then it goes to downloads, and there it is. It's weird, it just has a number for the name, but I'm going to use his name. So I'm going to copy his name, the artist's name, so I remember that I need to credit this artist. So I'm going to just move that over there to my images folder. Oh, didn't make it. Let me get it in my images folder. Okay, and I have some examples to show you guys. Also, you can go to Google to search for images and choose images here. And then think of a category. Can anyone give me a category? A good category of images? You could do some people who are into surfing, like surfing images. Some people who are into cars, like cars. Any topic. Shout out a topic. Any topic.
Space.
Space. That's a good one. Like outer space. Space. Let's see. Ooh, yeah. There's some gorgeous images there. So here on Google, it's a little trickier sometimes to even download the image or to know about the what the licensing is for the image. You could click on Tools, and you can use these options here to narrow down the search. Like if you want just large images, or you could choose a size. For usage rights, you could choose images that are under Creative Commons licenses or commercial and other licenses. to narrow things down. And then, except, even these ones on Creative Commons license have some watermarks that mean they're restricted to use. Well, this one looks cool. So let's say I like this one. So I click on it. And it says that there are license details here I could find out more about. I can right click I can see what size the image is in pixels here when I hover over it. I can right click the image and I can choose open image in new tab. And hopefully, okay, there, now I'm getting a large size image, so that's good. Then I can right click the image and choose save image as. And add that to my images. Oops, this is the wrong images folder. It's for my other class. Okay, so there's a planet Saturn image. It's a JPEG, and I'll save it there. And I've got some examples of the assignment to share with you today. So I'm gonna do that. Examples. You guys want to see something that's going to blow you away first off, or something simpler, maybe with some flaws to talk about?
Simpler maybe first,
Simpler.
and then the one that's going to blow us away.
Work up to it? Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, let's see. So some of these, this one's not really, I would say this one is like a caricature style, which is fine. You can strip down the detail. It's not really finished and not really fulfilling the requirements of the assignment, so that would lose points for that. Remember, it's got to be within an 8x8, and it's got to include text to get your full points. But he did a nice job of capturing his resemblance and his expression from the photograph. And it looks kind of like his head is rolling through space. So I would, I would either push that in that direction. I like how he put, he's got a lot of flares in the background. Maybe I'd put like Saturn rings around his head or something that makes it resemble that. Maybe having text that has meaning, that pushes that idea of his head is floating through space. That would be helpful to resolve the image. Otherwise, I would say you need the neck and shoulders to make it look finished. Let's look at something else here. Let's see, another one. This one is well done. This is an example of one that follows the instructions of the assignment very well. I'm looking at the PDF version now, but let me get it into Illustrator. I'll just drag it in there like that. So here's the original photograph, and notice it's not necessary to recreate everything in the photograph exactly. Like the artist only chose this one girl to focus on, which is great, because then it makes the photograph more her own or his own. This might have been a guy who did this. And so let me just clean up my workspace real quick. Window, workspace. I'm gonna reset. There we go. Okay, so if this image was under copyright law, was copyright restricted, I guess arguing in court under fair use, changing the image, putting the beach in the background makes it become even more your own. So that's a great strategy, is like take a part of the photograph and then do something else to finalize the work and really make it your own. Use your imagination as much as you can, but do try to capture something real from the photograph, something that looks a little realistic. It doesn't have to look realistic in the sense that it looks like a, necessarily like a realistic painting. It could look like a caricature stripped down of detail. It's up to you how detailed you want to get. If you want to do black and white, use less color, those are all choices that are up to you. This artist did lots of shapes to create the highlights on the face, the shadows, the lights and darks, captured the reflections in the eyes really beautifully. Really nice detail on the hair, and it's all vector. So when you zoom in, everything stays sharp and crisp and clean, and it has its own style. This is all done with just solid colors. Part of the technique here that was used was that some of these shapes are transparent. So if I were to, let's see, can I unlock all? So if I were to select a shape and look at in properties, a lot of the shapes have different levels of opacity. And that was the strategy that this particular artist used to kind of blend the colors and make more colors blend together in a more subtle way. Really nice look overall. Let's see another one. So this one was done by an OCC student who was actually going to school for engineering. So he was just taking the 181 class kind of like an elective. It was appropriate what the text he chose that's rolling around in his brain. And then he put his name down there. And what I really like in this one is all the attention to detail in terms of like the eyelashes, the lines on the face, the lines on the lips. Nice caricature, nice idea for a caricature to have the way he etched out the lines around the nose and the mouth and everything. There is a problem though with this one, which is looking at his face from his forehead down to his chin. He looks like he's getting a little, not feeling too well. He's getting a little pale on the forehead, and looking a little patchy. And that's because in the face shape, he used a linear gradient, which is not going to work so well with creating the contours of a face, and it makes it difficult to blend some of these shadow colors nicely because the difference is too much of a contrast from the shadow color to the light skin color on the face up here by the forehead. And then down here though, the color of the shadow is a lot more subtle. So the choices are better. I think he would have done better to use the darker color as the overall face color, or if he used the lighter color as the overall face color as a solid color, then he'd just have to use lighter colors for the shadows to make those choices so that it works. But for to create the three-dimensionality, it'll work if you use lots of shapes that are solid colors stacked on top of each other for the shadows, for the midtone, or for the highlights. It'll also work if you use a tool like the mesh tool to do nice to create the illusion of three-dimensionality with like the irregular contours of a face shape. linear gradient's not a good strategy for creating three-dimensionality, nor is radial gradient, because our face is not the shape of a balloon. And I don't particularly like the new freeform gradient as much for choosing colors. It's a little, I find it to be a little awkward because you need to have all the swatches stored ahead of time. So mesh seems to be the winner for me anyway, if I want to have smooth blends. But you don't have to use mesh. I'm going to be showing you how to use mesh. That's it. That's just one option for creating three-dimensionality in a work like this. There's also blending that can be used, which I showed you blending when we were talking about the genealogy, doing the genealogy chart where you can blend one object into another. That's another technique for creating three-dimensionality in like a protrusion or an irregular shaped three-dimensional form, like a face. So you have lots of different choices for this assignment, and I'm going to be demonstrating all of them. Okay, let's see another example. Let's see. Let me just kind of skip over some of these. Let's see. Maybe I'll go with this one next. So this is the one that blows everyone away. This is the famous one around campus at OCC, the Macarthur Dog. So just look at that. Look at those honey eyes. They just make me melt every time. And I'm honestly not a dog person, but when I look at this, I'm like, ooh, I want a dog. Dog is my best friend. And so this is done with a stacking of shape after shape after shape. And she has used a lot of mesh. You can see the mesh on the nose. So mesh is done with this tool right here, right next to the gradient tool. I'll be demonstrating it, but you start with a simple shape with a simple solid color, and then you're able to add mesh points to create a grid, and then you're able to select certain points and give those points specific colors. Like this point here has a lighter color, these other points have darker colors, and based on the point will hold the color, and you can blend color out into the rest of the shape. You can drag on handles to move the color out further, or constrain it in. You can move the color around and blend color into color, and that's how you get the you start creating three-dimensionality with the mesh and creating the shadows and the highlights and creating shading that way. So this is lots and lots of shapes. It's not all done with mesh. There's a lot of pen tool, really fine pen tool work going on here. A lot of these are just solid color shapes. Just look at that, the details on the tongue there and in the eyes. There's mesh on the eye shapes. But some shapes are just solid, simple, like an ellipse, a perfect circle here, some shape that's transparent here. So lots of different combinations of techniques used. And let's take a look at the original photograph here. I'll turn that on. So you can see, again, she didn't try to recreate everything from the photograph. She didn't put that background in there. She didn't put that guy in the background with his dog. It was just about this one dog. That's probably her dog that she has love for. And I can just tell that there must be love. She must really have a lot of love for this dog, because when I look at her rendering of the portrait of her dog, I can feel that love. It just shines right through, because she's using the tools to create these shapes. That is just going to start to come that comes through naturally when you use tools like the pen tool. And we're going to get into using the paintbrush tools, and another tool under that, the blob brush tool. When you really start to hone those skills and using the tools, that's when just naturally, subconsciously, your own feelings and thoughts are going to kind of just come through, and your own style is going to come through and convey more than what the camera necessarily captured. So when I look at the photo, I'm like, meh, yeah, not really a dog person. When I look at her rendering of her dog, I'm like, yeah, I am a dog person. I can fall in love with this dog here. Those honey eyes just make you melt. So for this assignment, it's really important that you use the tools, use the pen tool to create every shape with your own thoughtfulness, not to just do an image trace. Image tracing for this assignment would be cheating. So let me show you what that is in case anyone isn't clear about image tracing, so you know what not to do for this assignment. I repeat, image tracing for this assignment is cheating. Do not image trace. So just to show you image tracing, I'm just gonna duplicate this photo over here, and I'll just put this down on this layer here so we can compare. Okay, so here's the photo. Now, if I were to go to Window and bring up the image trace panel, from that I could easily turn a photograph into vectors, just so you know, it can be done. I can click on any one of these presets like auto color, and it'll tell me that it's gonna go slow because it's a large image, but it'll go fast enough. And you can use the sliders and stuff and tweak things a little bit, but in the end, no matter what choices you make with the image trace panel, it's always gonna look like an image trace. It's always gonna just be obvious that it's just a direct, it's just the computer doing the thinking for you and just translating pixels into splotches that always look like the same image trace splotches. No thoughtfulness. It's just an image trace, and it's very obvious when someone tries to cheat and turn in an image trace. So do not turn in an image trace. See, I look at this image trace version of the photograph, and I'm still like, meh. Not a dog person, even though this is vectors now. See, I can zoom in and I won't see pixels, as opposed to, when it was the pixel version, the raster version, I see pixels when I zoom in. Oops. Pixels. This is now, it's vectors, but it's not expanded into vectors. It's just showing what it would look like as vectors. It's not expanded into vectors until you select it and you click expand, or you choose expand. Now it's vectors. So some people think, like, a first thought might be, oh, maybe I should start with image tracing and then make it my own. And that's not gonna work too well. It's gonna still be obvious that it's image trace, and it's gonna end up more work than it would be if it's more work to start with this mess with all these little blotches than to start with your own work, to start drawing around and making the shapes yourself. Believe me, it's a lot easier. You can't really start with this. It's, in any case, for this assignment, it's cheating. So don't image trace, okay? Any questions about that? Avoid image tracing at all costs for this assignment. Image tracing can come in handy for other types of assignments, but not for this one, all right? So use the pen tool. You want to master that tool. That's an important tool. That's going to give you a lot of power, and it's going to just allow you to really look at the image and decide on the shapes that you see and use your imagination, go around the shapes. See, I could do all kinds of little corners and points on these shapes and make it really exciting, a lot more exciting than what the camera could capture. Because it's a medium that we're working with here, that like paint. It's digital paint. So that's that. Let me close that and don't say that. Let's see, any other examples? Here's a great example done by another OCC student, a brilliant example, I might add. So this one is not done with the pen tool, and that's fine. It's just very cleverly done. This is a really clever version of this assignment. You can do this. It's still creating shapes of different colors, but it's done with all different sized circles. Isn't that exciting? And then we have letters intermingled. So this fulfills the assignment. It's an 8x8, and it's got shapes. It's got it's capturing the likeness of a photograph, and it's taking it to a whole new level with a whole new style, and it includes text. And this one, for some reason, it doesn't bother me that there's no neck and shoulders. It's like, because it's stripped down to abstract circles, it feels finished. What do you guys think?
That's great.
Yeah.
It would look weird with the necks and shoulders, I think. Looks
Yeah.
like it would be on a t-shirt or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it works just as the face for this one.
Or like an album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does remind me of album cover art. Yeah, it's very cool. And let me find something else to show you. This is a really nicely done one. Lots of good use of the mesh in this one to create the shading, the subtle shadows and highlights on the face, and etching out the three-dimensionality of the nose. Lots of detail on the hair, lots of little brush strokes, which don't worry about doing fine detail until next week, because I'm going to be going over using more about using the brush, the paintbrush, to do fine details for next week. But look, for the first part of the assignment, first week, focus on larger shapes and using the pen tool and mapping out like the large shape areas. Okay, I wanted to show you something. This one's really nice too to look at. Really nice. Very expressive. This one looks like it's done with all just solid colors. No mesh for this one. And that's just fine. It's still capturing the likeness from the photograph, the three-dimensionality with the light, how the light's shining on the face, and the shadow and the mid-tone colors, and all the different colors in the jeans, creating the shadows and the highlights. And really nice statement. I like the circles overlapping with, it looks like there are blending modes on the circles, so that the circles interact with other circles, which we can talk about blending modes too. Let me see if there was one. This one's all black and white and shades of gray. This one forgot text. This one is really nice to see. I like the way that the meaning of the word goes well with what you're seeing in the image. Wandering. What does it make you think of when you see the image with this word, wandering? What do you think is wandering here, maybe, based on looking at the image? It takes you into...
Her eyes.
Right. Exactly. Her mind, her thoughts, it takes you right into her kind of psychological state, her mind, and then literally her eyes are moving or wandering. You can also use effects for this. She put a cool glow effect on the shapes on the glasses there. Cool. But I would save effects for the end because you don't want to bog things down with effects. Just like save the finer little details for the end. Work on big shapes first. So let me just get started. I did want to find maybe this one here. Talk about this one. So this one was cleverly done, breaking things down into light and dark. He forgot text. This was the photo he based it on. Notice the photo looks distorted, right? You don't want to do that. You don't want to squash your photo. You want to keep your photo at natural looking aspect ratio. You don't squash things like that. Always hold shift when you scale your photo. I think that his image would have looked better if it didn't look so squashed. I think it would be better at maybe like something that looks more like a normal aspect ratio. But you can definitely break things down into light and dark like this. This is really nice. Just black and white is also a great way to go for this assignment, if you'd like. It's up to you about the colors. Now I brought an image today. Let me just grab it. Let's see. Where do I have that? Put my image over here. So this one is, oops, I put it in the wrong place. Let me move it to, okay, so I brought this image today, but if you guys want to see me do, where's my folder for the class? Let me just get everything together in one image, or one, wait a minute. Oh, I'm in the wrong folder here. My images folder, there we are. Gotta get my head on straight today. Okay, so, I found the cat. I brought this image of one of my favorite authors, and I was thinking of using one of her quotes. And I found an old horse, and I found a planets. What would you guys like to see me demonstrate today?
I say your favorite author because there's an emotional attachment there, so more into it. I don't know.
Okay.
Professor?
Uh-huh.
Did anyone else want to vote? Because
Oh. Well, everyone is welcome to shout out or forever hold your peace because we don't have a lot of time, so I can't just like wait. But thank you for being fair. So, but I don't hear from anyone else. Anyone else had any requests for me to demo anything different? Are you guys good with the person, the portrait of the person? And you guys are welcome to choose an animal and a lot of the same techniques that I would use on a person, you can use on an animal. Like when I get to her hair, that'll be similar to the kind of work you might do for fur.